Before karate had names, before styles were written into history, before systems were separated by borders, there was only combat, breath, and survival. On a small island between China and Japan, three paths slowly began to form: Shuri, Tomari, and Naha. This is the story of the path that was not shaped by speed, but by pressure, not by elegance, but by endurance. This is the origin of what would later be known as Naha-te. In the 19th century, Okinawa was a meeting point of worlds. Chinese merchants crossed its ports. Japanese authority ruled its land. Local warriors protected their people. Fighting systems existed, but they had no clear names. Everything was simply called te, the hand. In Shuri, combat grew inside noble families and palace guards. In Tomari, among sailors and coastal defenders. But in Naha, Naha belonged to trade, to labor, and to China. Here, foreign hands met Okinawan fists. Here, breath met structure. Here, the seeds of Naha-te were planted long before anyone knew its name. Kanryo Higaonna did not invent Naha-te. He became the man who carried its foundation across the sea. As a young man, he trained in local Okinawan fighting methods. He learned close-range strikes, circular defense, and rooted movement. But Okinawa was not his destination. It was his beginning. In the 1870s, Higaonna traveled to Fuzhou, China. There, he trained deeply inside the southern Chinese martial systems, white crane boxing, southern Shaolin traditions, and internal breathing methods. In China, Higaonna learned something Okinawa had only hinted at: that true power is not thrown from the limbs. It is built from breath and structure. When he returned home, he did not bring back a Chinese style. He brought back a system without a name.
Before Kanryo Higaonna ever left Okinawa, before China, before White Crane, before formal transmission, Naha already had its own way of fighting. Not taught in dojos, not written in scrolls. It lived on the docks. Men who carried rice, wood, and iron learned to carry their bodies the same way: low, grounded, compressed. They fought in narrow alleys, between crates, against walls soaked with rain and salt. There was no space for wide techniques, no room for escape, only pressure. They learned to strike without swinging, to enter without distance, to breathe without panic. When air disappears, only structure remains. This was not yet Naha-te, but it was its shadow. A culture where endurance mattered more than speed, where lungs mattered more than hands, where survival shaped the body long before any master shaped a system. Higaonna did not create this spirit. He inherited it, and only later gave it form.
What Higaonna taught in Okinawa was never formally labeled during his lifetime. It was simply known as his method, a system built on heavy, rooted stances, short-range strikes, circular blocking, controlled muscle tension, and breath as a source of power. His students did not learn beauty. They learned how to survive under pressure. This system was harder than Shuri methods, heavier than Tomari techniques. It was not designed for speed. It was designed for endurance. In Higaonna's system, breath became a weapon. Controlled exhalation hardened the core. Inhalation rebuilt structure. The entire body became a pressurized engine. This was not fast karate. This was the karate of advance, pressure, and structural dominance.
In Naha-te, kata were never choreography. They were laboratories of breath and pressure. Among all of them, two stand above the rest: Sanchin and Tensho. Sanchin is the kata of structure. 3 steps forward, 3 turns. No beauty, no speed. Only posture under tension. Only breath against resistance. In traditional training, the body was struck during Sanchin. Pushed, pulled, tested. Not to break it, but to teach it how to remain unbroken. Tensho was the opposite force. Where Sanchin hardens, Tensho releases. Where Sanchin compresses, Tensho flows. Circular hands, soft transitions, breath moving like water through the body. Together, they form the oldest inner dialogue of Naha-te. Hard and soft, tension and release, structure and freedom. Long before Goju-ryu had a name, this conversation already lived inside these two kata. They were not designed to impress the eye, they were designed to change the body from the inside out. For decades, Okinawan martial systems existed without formal classification. Everything changed in 1927. That year, Jigoro Kano, founder of Judo, arrived in Okinawa. What he witnessed was not a single fighting tradition, but three distinct systems. After these demonstrations, a transformation began. The old name, Tode, Chinese hand, slowly disappeared, and for the first time, Okinawan combat received its own identities, Shurite, Tomarite, and the heavy, breath-driven system from Naha became known as Naha-te. The Higaonna system finally received a name. Among Higaonna's students, one man would reshape this system forever. His name was Chojun Miyagi. Miyagi inherited power, but he searched for balance. He studied Chinese classics. He observed breath. He watched how tension and softness lived inside the same movement. And slowly, he realized, power without control destroys. Softness without structure collapses. In the early 1930s, one of Miyagi's students traveled to Japan and participated in a martial arts demonstration. After his performance, a Japanese official asked him a simple question. "What style do you practice?" The student hesitated. He did not know what to answer. Until that moment, Miyagi's system had no formal name. When the story reached Miyagi, he searched for an answer, not in ego, but in tradition. He returned to an old Chinese martial text known as the Bubishi. Within its pages, he found a principle that defined everything he believed in. The way of breathing is both hard and soft. From that single line, Miyagi gave his system a name, Goju-ryu, Go, hard, Ju, soft. The name was not chosen for beauty, it was chosen for truth. In 1933, Goju-ryu was officially recognized by Japan's highest martial institution, the Dai Nippon Butoku Kai. For the first time in history, a system born from Chinese breath and Okinawan survival stood equal beside the classical Japanese martial arts. Naha-te had completed its transformation. Today, Naha-te no longer exists as a separate label, but its spirit lives inside Goju-ryu Kyokushin, knockdown karate, and full-contact fighters around the world. Anywhere you see a fighter who refuses to retreat, who advances under pressure, who keeps structure when chaos erupts, you are seeing the legacy of Naha-te. Shurite teaches you how to move. Tomarite teaches you how to flow. Naha-te teaches you how to stand when movement disappears. It is not the art of appearance, it is the art of survival. Born without a name, forged in breath, hardened under pressure. This is Naha-te. If this story moved you, if you felt the weight of breath, pressure, and tradition, then you already carry the spirit of martial arts within you. For deeper journeys into the real history of karate, beyond trophies, beyond organizations, beyond politics, subscribe to Archangel Dojo. Join our members section for exclusive breakdowns, rare stories, and behind-the-scenes research. Support the channel on Patreon if you want this work to continue growing stronger. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where we share daily fragments of tradition, combat philosophy, and unseen training moments. And if you want to go even deeper, my upcoming book will take you beyond the screen, into the living heart of martial arts history and philosophy. All the links are waiting for you below. Thank you for walking this path with us. The journey continues.